Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel and welcome to this brand new JJ's One Man Podcast. Got a lot to talk about today, people. There's a lot of stuff that happened. I thought this episode was going to be a little bit shorter than what it's probably going to end up becoming because I thought it was going to go one way and then a bunch of stuff happened, of which we'll get into in just a little bit. But of course, before we get started on all that, let me say, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a like on this video podcast. Let me know your thoughts about everything in the comment section down below because we're going to get into some things. There's a lot of things to dive into. One other thing to note before we get started is that I'm going to be having a little bit more time come up soon where I'll be able to do a little bit more content on the channel, including more reviews, hopefully. It's just that your man's been busy out here doing stuff. So even though I've been doing some content on the channel already, putting up the JJ's first looks, including the stuff with the Modern Warfare 3. I almost said Black Ops 3. Modern Warfare 3 beta that just happened, or is going on technically right now because of the open beta. I have gameplay up for that right now on PlayStation 5. But I've been doing videos like that, but there haven't been a lot of reviews. And the main reason being is because I've been writing a lot in a lot of different places, various gaming topics, including stuff with .esports, CFTV, and many other places. If you haven't already seen that, I share everything over on my Twitter page. Make sure you guys follow me over on Twitter to see everything literally that I'm doing, because I post up on there every day, okay? Your man's been working hard out here, hence why there hasn't been a lot of reviews, but there's still content for you, okay? I'm cooking out here, okay? Give me at least a second to get myself acquainted so I could get all this stuff out here for you guys. There's a lot of great content I know you'll love, but regardless though, very, very soon as we start to get into like the end of the holiday season, or towards the holiday season, I should say, I'm going to have a little bit more time to kind of start playing around and start doing more other video content that I've wanted to do for quite a while. So, and we got some big games coming up too, like Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5, which we will get into later. But let's start off with the serious, more important stuff first, okay? Because there is a lot to dive into today. Serious discussion, serious topics, serious attitude. So first things first. Bungie has been catching heat for the last week. Ever since I want to say October 2nd or October 4th, whenever their tweet went out, I'm actually got the original tweet pulled up right here that I'm going to be looking at. If you guys didn't see this, if you haven't already seen it already on the internet, because it was passed all over the place. It was actually October 2nd, so I was right. And then everybody started responding to it October 3rd and 4th, because they put this up late at night, I guess, or in the afternoon, but whatever. The main thing is that Bungie put out a tweet. They started a new initiative over in their business over there on their building with their employees, which is fine, which is whatever. But as usual, whenever it comes to certain things involving certain topics, they decide to share it on their social media, which is fine in of itself. But we'll get into why this became a mess in just a bit. But here's the tweet. If you haven't already seen it, you could still see it on the Bungie post right now over on their Twitter page. Being Latin AEOX is more than just a location on a map. Just as being Hispanic is more than the language we might speak. We are proud to introduce the newest idea, Latin at Bungie. And then they have a link to the Bungie page that has everything else of what they're doing and such like that. So that's what the actual post was. And I'm clicking on it right now. It's still up there now. You can even still see it on their website. So the main thing, okay, is that this went out. And as soon as it was out there for a little bit, it started getting reactions, a lot of negative reactions for one reason or another. Now, before we even get deeper into this, let me preface everything by saying that number one, I am Latino, I am Hispanic, I am Puerto Rican, I am Boricua, so I am more than qualified to talk about this stuff. But in addition to that, because it is me, and you guys know me as it is, some of you might already know that I've actually been on college panels and various discussion panels and other events talking about stuff like this. I was actually part of the Latinx Creative Consortium for the University of Texas, where I actually got to talk about this type of stuff. In addition to that, I was also a guest speaker at Make Games Miami, where this came up while I was over there, besides other discussions about my career in the media and stuff. But it was something that I talked about with the students that were there. A lot of students that were getting into game design, people that are going to become the future indie devs of our age and maybe working at AAA devs. Those are the people that are going to be making our games sometime down the line. So you're welcome, by the way. Either way, okay, I am more than qualified to speak on this stuff and to give my opinion and at least have a real discussion about all of this. So now that we have all that out the way, here's the reason why this was a problem with everybody. And you don't even need me to tell you this technically. You could go see this in all the replies that were shared right underneath Bungie's post on Twitter, let alone what was shared on social media through the quote tweets, through the hidden replies, which we'll get into in just a second. All this different stuff right now in response to their actual posting, okay? Now, the problem is that a lot of Hispanics and a lot of Latinos and people that are of Spanish descent, no matter what country that they might herald from or where their descendancy is from, they don't like the term Latinx. And the reason being is because already, as many people have said many times before me, the Spanish language is very gendered. And the reason why it's done like that is because it flows easily on the tongue. You know, you have masculine and feminine applications for different stuff. And also with certain, I think, vocabulary, certain words have the O or the A to designate a certain type of like difference in the language and its definition, even though it might not be addressing a male or a female. It's just the way that the word is structured in order to flow right on the language. So this has been a thing that's been for many hundreds of years. Okay, this is literally how the language is structured by its utter design. Like, and there's not really much you could change from that because this is what people have grown up with. This is how people have been raised with and how they speak and how they communicate with others. And the problem is that while in like its initial intention, while it was very noble to be more inclusive, which is what a lot of people tend to be a little bit more obsessed with now these days, unfortunately, they're doing it in a way that doesn't work well with the language. You know, the term Latinx, where it's Latin but with an X put on the end of it instead of an A or an O to designate Latinos or Latinas, they put the X in order to be more inclusive to get rid of the gender application. But that doesn't work well within the language. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and it also just doesn't sound right to many people who only speak Spanish. For a lot of English-speaking people, especially here in the United States, you know, we hear the definition, we hear the explanation for it, and most people, you know, at least people that don't really care about this type of stuff, kind of just write it off. They don't use it. They don't care about it. But those that are still part of the conversations, you know, they have their opinions about this. But the problem is that this still doesn't take away and still doesn't address a lot of the issues that all people have when it comes to the application of it within the language. And the thing is, and where it really becomes a problem, it's not even about that itself. It's when you have the bubbles of different people on social media that continuously, despite a large amount of people having an issue with it, continuously try to impose that on them and try to actually force that upon them and shove it in their face to try to say is like, no, this is how you have to talk right now. This is how you have to address people. This is how you have to refer to you as yourself. This is how you have to refer to Hispanics, because the term Hispanic has its own history. This is like conversations that have been going on for a long, long time, like all the way back, I think even as far as like the 50s or the 40s, maybe even longer than that. You know, but it's been around for a long time. But now, more these days in the modern day, there's a lot of people that tend to be very, very obsessed with that, you know, because of social media places like Twitter, like Reddit, like NeoGAF, like TikTok, etc., whatever. The point is that this is an ongoing thing that's been around for a long time. And what makes it so much worse is the fact that you have these people that are just constantly trying to force it on everybody else. So, to round it back off, all the way back to Bungie's post. Okay, let me take a sip of this water real quick. To bring it back to Bungie's post, the main issue that people have with Bungie's post is that they do this, right? They put this out there. Everybody responds back to it negatively. Everybody, bottom line, you know that little pop-up that happens in Fallout where it says everyone disliked that? It's a meme that goes around. That's literally what happened here. But instead of just ignoring it, Bungie decided to go out and not only hide replies on the Twitter post, okay? You could actually go to the hidden thread or hidden replies on Twitter and see all these replies from everybody that's been talking on this stuff. And there's probably even more beyond that, right? On top of that, as if that wasn't bad enough, Bungie goes and they actually close off the comments on their Facebook post about this. So here's the real issue, okay? Because it's not even about the term itself. The real issue is that you're trying to say that you're representing a group of people or you're doing something as a way of inclusivity and diversity for a certain group of people, and you're shutting out those same people that are reactively being negative towards you, that are reacting negative towards you. I'm sorry, misspoke there. You know, that's where the problem is at, because I'm looking at these replies literally right now as I'm talking to all of you. There is a lot of people who are Hispanic. Some people I know personally that are Spanish that are responding to them and like, hey, this is not it, Bungie. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now, let's be fair here. Okay, there's a lot of people being the way that they are and being foolish on social media, as is the case with the internet. But the overwhelming amount of people that are like rational and are just like being like, hey, what the hell? Or like, what are you doing, Bungie? There's a lot of them in here. A lot more than some of the people that are just acting a fool. And you could say whatever you want about having thick skin and all this stuff, but when you really get to its heart of the issue, Bungie did this thing and they decided to shut out and just close off communication with the same people that they're claiming to represent. Now, this might be an initiative for Bungie over in their business, okay, over with their employees, which is fine. But there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that are brought up, and you're just shutting out an entire group of people from the conversation, which is actually relevant to those specific people, or at least those people are relevant to the bigger conversation here. You could bring up, questions and conversations about the logo and stuff. I'm not even about all that. It is what it is. You could just get too caught up on the silliness when it comes to convos like that. But really at the heart of the issue is that Bungie is trying to represent a group of people that they are also subsequently shutting out at the same time because they don't like how the reaction was that they got to all this. Now, this is a major problem. And as someone who is Hispanic and someone who is Latino, who is Puerto Rican, who is Boricua, and the whole nine, right? This to me I see as a problem because personally, and I've been open about this in the past many times, I don't use the term Latinx. It doesn't bother me personally when people use it. I'm not out here trying to like police everybody's speech, and I'm not trying to be such a jerk to other people about how they talk on their own time. Nobody's really about that. The people that are real about issues like this, that care about issues like this, they're not trying to police other people's speech, okay? But at the same time, they're allowed to have their opinions and allowed to have their stances and perspectives that are hyper relevant to stuff like this. So to see Bungie react in the way that they did, I thought was not only very hypocritical, but it also shows a lack of inauthenticity. A lack of authenticity. It shows a lot of inauthenticity on Bungie's behalf. Because number one, you should have never closed the comments on your Facebook page when you were doing this. Because like how the tweets are open, because I'll tell you right now, if they would have closed the replies on the Twitter page, if they closed the replies completely and just put this out there like that, they would have gotten so much more blowback, to be honest with you. But it's still bad enough when you close off the comments over on Facebook, because literally people notice that, especially after noticing this post, and they see it on all your other social media, or at least the ones where you put this up on there. It's a bad look, like, overall. And funny enough, right? Okay, very funny enough. Let me take a sip of this water real quick. What's really funny, right? I asked a question about this over on Last Stand Media. They did their Sacred Symbols podcast, and I submitted a question about it, to Colin, to Chris, specifically Chris on there, because Chris is also Puerto Rican like me. He's on a different side of the games industry and more of a content creator in other facets of that whole field, as opposed to what I am. But we're both Puerto Rican that are still tangential and parallel into games. And I was really trying to see like what his stance was, where he like actually thought about this, because he plays a lot of Bungie games as well. Besides Destiny, he plays a lot of Halo. He's excited about Marathon. His opinion is definitely going to be relevant in this conversation. And one of the things that he said, he echoed a lot of my same sentiments. He echoed a lot of stuff that I was thinking to myself, and even what I'm saying now. But also with him, he felt like it was very stupid, because it's like, look, like, there's nothing wrong with things like this, but don't do stuff like this and then just get mad at the reaction of it. And then just like do certain things that are just going to make it that much more worse. On top of, he also got into a whole, monologue about like the actual Latinx term and stuff, which is very similar to what I've said. But if you want to actually hear the specifics, you could go listen to it on their Sacred Symbols podcast whenever it's out publicly. And the main thing is that he feels very similar to me and very similar to many other Hispanics out there that are in the games industry and out of the games industry that don't like this. So what's the problem here? Like, why is it that a lot of companies, including Bungie here, and even others, which I will address in a second, that continuously try to do this, thinking that they're going to get props from the community that they're trying to represent? Because like Colin and a few others have said, and it's not just Colin on their podcast, but I've seen this same sentiment shared around on other places of social media, where it's like companies that are doing this, whether it's for Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Pride Month, or PO, I forgot the one specifically for POCs, but there's one also for Native American Appreciation Month or something like that. There's a couple others. There's like a bunch of them, right? Where they do things like this and they only do it for that little small period of time and then it goes away. And it's like, okay, were you really down about that? Or did you just want the cheap pop in viewership and engagement and also in clout? Because that's really what the question is here. Because you got to ask yourself, even if you're someone that agrees with stuff like that they're putting out there, even if you like the term Latinx, you have to really ask yourself, is like, are they really doing this because they care about the representation that they're claiming to roll so hard for? Or are they just doing it for the moment? And honestly, if we're going to be objective here, if we're going to be fair, a lot of companies, maybe including Bungie here and this, are just doing it because of the engagement and because of the moment, which is a shame because there are larger conversations to have, especially in the games industry with stuff like this. But it's things like this as well, actions like this, and also responses like what Bungie did that muddy the water and make it so much more difficult to have conversations like this. Now, I did mention before about other groups and stuff in relation to what Bungie did that, I felt were very questionable with their actions, right? Here's my thing about this. Where are all the usual subjects or suspects? Oh my God, I said that all wrong. Where are all the usual suspects? Oh my God, I did it again. You see what I'm saying? I'm with my mind all over the place. I'm like messing up my words, okay? Where are all the usual people, the usual suspects? Okay, there, I said it right this time, okay? Where are they that care about conversations like this when it comes to what happened with Bungie recently? Because I'll tell you right now, there was a bunch of people that I saw in the replies here that are pretty big, large content creators that got this a lot of attention, and it was written about in a number of different places, okay, that are normally would talk about this, but have honestly been completely silent. Okay, I'm talking about Latinx and gaming. I'm talking about some of the people over there at Kind of Funny. I'm talking about some of the other people that have been floating around social media that claim to care about this stuff, but have yet to actually speak on this, that they were completely silent. It's been now over close to about a week, I want to say, because October 2nd is when this happened. I'm recording this on October 9th, okay? So it's Columbus Day when I'm recording this. And since then, these people have been silent. Now, in all fairness, maybe they talked about it on some of their content, okay? But I don't watch any of their content for various reasons. I've been open about that for some people that I'm seeing. But a lot of these same individuals really would go on social media talking about this and promoting their content, speaking on it and everything. And that's fine. But where are all they now when it comes to stuff like this, where clearly there is a very, very large negative response to something that community that they're claiming to represent does not like? Where are they? Where are these people? That, I think, is a very relevant and very important question that clearly none of these individuals are prepared to answer, or they don't have a good answer to begin with, or they never did. Because I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not seeing quote tweets. I'm not seeing replies. I'm not seeing regular tweets. I'm not seeing Facebook posts. I'm not seeing forum or Reddit posts. I'm not seeing any of that. So what's the problem? Like, you know what I'm saying? I bring this up because it's like, look, there are very important conversations to have with all this. Like I've said, all this stuff are very relevant. There's very big things to actually speak on with all this stuff. However, we can't just be so picky and choosy with some of these things. We have to be even and consistent throughout all over the board. Like we have to be honest with ourselves about this stuff. We have to be real about it. And from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of people who are not being real, who are honestly being really kind of almost fugazi to a point. If you don't know what fugazi means, it means being phony, being very weird, okay? Very questionable more than anything else, right? Now, here's the funny thing. The reason why I bring this up too is because when I actually spoke about this, I actually put out a tweet back on the 3rd when I actually saw everything going down, because it happened on the 2nd when Bungie put out their stuff, and then I spoke about it afterwards when I first saw it on the 3rd. And one of the big things that I shared when I was talking about this and why I kept saying that Bungie was in the wrong here, because clearly whoever was working the social media accounts for Bungie was not doing their work right, or did not do their homework, or wasn't doing their job right whatsoever, okay? I shared this post from NBC News that was as early as, where was the date on this? I'm looking at it now. The date was all the way back in 2021, which are based off stuff that was even earlier, right? What is it? Where's the actual name of the organization? I'm going to share it with you guys because I want to get the right thing, right? There was a group that actually does a lot of the stuff that actually covers a lot of issues like this for Hispanics around the United States and technically around the world, where they actually stopped using the term Latinx, because the majority of Latinos and the majority of Hispanics that are in this country and outside of this country don't like using that term. So instead of just making it a thing that's all the way up in their face, they decided to go back to using Latinos or Latinas as a generalized term. Okay. I'm trying to find the name of it. I'm skimming through the actual, posting here, because I want to get the right name, right? Because say the director professor at Cuban Research Institute of Florida International University, blah, blah, blah. No, I want the actual name of this group. But as I'm looking for this, the main thing is that this group decided to stop using that. Okay, this is a couple years ago already. Okay, this is from a couple years ago. They decided to stop using that because there were so many people who did not want to actually use it, didn't want to be referred to it to themselves as Latinx. They didn't feel like it was right. Here we go. I found the organization. It was the League of United Latin American Citizens. Okay, the LULAC. Okay, it was written. What is it? The president, Domingo Garcia, was actually speaking, dropped a quote about this stuff, saying that a lot of people didn't want to actually be referred to as this because they're a civil rights organization that help out Latinos throughout the United States and also in other countries around the world. So they decided to stop using that, right? Back as early as 2021, which even earlier because of some of the studies they did. But funny enough, going back to the games industry, despite that being the case, we still have a lot of companies and a lot of organizations that consistently go out of their way to use that, despite organizations like what I just said, the LULAC, and many other people, an overwhelming amount of people who are Hispanic or Latino or Latina that don't want that term to be used as like a generalization for them or is used as reference to them. So what is the problem, and why is it that the usual suspects are not talking about stuff like this? Why is nobody doing the research? Why is nobody actually sitting down and having a real conversation? That's the questions that none of these people and a lot of these individuals that claim to care about this stuff are really taking the moment to really answer. And even though technically I'm not one that's qualified to organize a whole thing to sit down and have that conversation, I think there are far more important people that should be doing that. But it really makes you think, and it really makes you postulate like, yo, what is going on here? Why is it that the overwhelming amount of people that are Hispanic are being ignored when it comes to this stuff? And why is Bungie making it such a point to get into this stuff that they literally care about this so much that they went and hid a bunch of replies on their Twitter post? Like, come on now, man. Like you it's like staring at everybody right in the face, and some of these people are just straight up ignoring it or not talking about it. Am I right or am I right? Okay, because I know I'm not wrong. Clearly, even this civil rights organization for Latin Americans are clearly saying the same thing that I'm thinking and many other people are thinking. But here's the kicker, right? As if that wasn't funny enough, okay? Here is the punchline. Let me take some water because this punchline is hilarious. Here is the punchline, people. Not too long after that post, as early as October 5th is when this article went out, right? It comes from IGN. Former Bungie HR manager is suing for wrongful termination after she reported potential racist bias. Now, this was reported on IGN. They got sources. They got people that they talked to. There's some decent reporting here that is corroborated by a couple others that reported on the story, right? There's some crazy stuff apparently that's been going on over there. Now, we don't know the truth for what now because most of us are not there at Bungie. But it's an extremely bad look to have something like that come out on a very major outlet, okay, that they did their reporting, okay? And then afterwards, right, as if that wasn't bad enough, and my phone's going off because my phone's like, yo, you're making points, man. Keep going, keep cooking, like, right? The main thing is that they literally have this crazy report go out, okay? Trying to make sure that my phone is muted. They have this crazy report come out mere days after this really negative backlash that they got for their tweet about the Latin at Bungie initiative going on. So clearly there's a lot of things going on involving race, involving all these other stuff over at Bungie that is clearly like all over the place. Clearly whoever's doing the PR for Bungie is not having a good day or they're not doing their job. And now here's the kicker of all this. I looked at some of the community managers and social media people that work over there at Bungie, and then it really starts to make you start asking some questions about like, did y'all really do your homework over here? Did y'all really think all of this through with the LAN at Bungie thing, let alone whatever was going on over here? I don't know. Maybe one thing isn't related to the other. I'll let y'all be decided that because people have already been sharing that type of stuff all over the place. I'm not going to say what exactly, but it really starts to make you start asking some questions. And I'll tell you right now, Bungie has definitely not had a good week. And I'm telling you, this is not going to go away because the moment that this other case thing, this suing, which is the HR manager that's suing Bungie for potential racial bias and her wrongful dismissal like that, as soon as that falls in that person's favor, okay, everybody's going to be on Bungie's ass over this type of stuff. And this Latinx thing with the Latin Bungie initiative, this is going to come right back to bite them in the ass if it hasn't already. Because literally, all of this is a very bad look. Because it shows a lot of tone deafness. It shows a lot of inconsideration for multiple groups of people. But also, whoever they had hired over there for specific stuff clearly isn't doing their job well. Okay, I'm just putting it out there. It's not me trying to be disrespectful. It's not me trying to be a clown. It's not me trying to be rude. It's literally the facts out here. Because look at it. There's a report on IGN that talks about this stuff, that has people that they spoke to over there. It doesn't get any more serious than that, especially within the games industry. The only way that this could have been even more serious if it's someone like NBC or MSNBC or CBS or even Forbes or whoever else, or Newsweek, I should say, even reported on something like this. Bungie better be thankful that they don't pick this up. Because when it starts to happen like that, it's going to get real bad for them as far as reactions and opinions and stuff. But we'll see what happens. I'll tell you right now, I think that, my own personal opinion on everything, Bungie made a really poor decision, made a really poor move, made a really tone-deaf move, and made some really poor decisions afterwards when they got the reaction. It was really, really stupid. Incredibly, incredibly stupid overall. So let's put that to bed, because that is a very big, deep discussion. We need some more fun stuff to balance all this out, okay? Because I don't even want to talk anymore about Bungie. It's enough with the headache. It's enough with the headache in the industry of people that are just straight up not talking about this for whatever reason. Let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about the hype of Spider-Man 2. Now, I spoke about this over on TikTok. I'm hyped up for Spider-Man 2. I'm ready. I cannot wait. It's coming out in a little bit over a week, because we're October 9th right now and that I'm recording this. The game is dropping on October 20th, which is dope. Okay, I already got it on pre-order. It's coming out on PlayStation 5. I'm getting it day one. Cannot wait to start playing this. The reason why I'm so hyped up about this is because, for me, I feel like Spider-Man 2 is probably the last big game of 2023 that I'm super hyped up about. Because I have to really double check the release schedule for October, November, December for 2023. But I think that might be the last major AAA game that people are hyped up about, that people have been waiting on for so long, because we've had some major games come out this year. Real talk, we had Hogwarts Legacy come out, we had Baldur's Gate 3, we had Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat 1, Diablo 4. Look, that's 7 releases alone for this year, bangers for some people. Now, you can argue there were some issues here and there for certain games like Diablo 4. I'll give you that. But you can't tell me that people were not hyped up for that game. There was unbelievable amounts of hype for every single one of those games that I mentioned, not counting the ones that I did not play. Because keep in mind, we also had The Legend of Zelda came out this year. Game of the Year conversations for the Game Awards are going to be really interesting for 2023. But we still got Spider-Man 2 coming around the corner, which looks like it could be definitely a Game of the Year contender for a lot of people, myself included. And everything that we've seen about this game has looked dope, has looked hype. The gameplay looks smooth, looks interesting. Being able to kind of swing around and zip around as both Peter and Miles, where you could switch on the fly, which I think is pretty cool. And by the way, they showed in one of the trailers that even if you're in combat doing something, you might have Miles swing by and help you out briefly, which I think is really, really cool. But even beyond that, you get more space to play around in New York. You get new villains like Venom, Kraven the Hunter, the Lizard. There might be more in here that we don't know yet. Plus, also, I saw a thing that got leaked out. Now, granted, normally I don't like talking about leaks, but this one seems a little bit too obvious to ignore, right? There's might be some Easter eggs here and there that might be setting up the Spider-Verse for Marvel Spider-Man 2. An actual Spider-Verse, similar to what we got with the Miles Morales movies, both across and beyond the Spider-Verse, but in the PlayStation 5, Insomniac Games version of it, which sounds super cool. Because remember, we had Peter Parker show up in the movie when Miles went to the whole Spider Society and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. But if we get that in the game and it ties directly into that movie somehow, I'm totally in. I'm totally down for that, because that sounds like a lot of fun. I loved the original Spider-Man on PlayStation 4. I thought that game was dope. I loved Miles Morales. I've been open about that. I've even done videos about Miles Morales here on the channel that you could go back and look at. especially when they were talking about a lot of the Hispanic culture, as far as Miles and his whole family was concerned, like putting that on display. The way they did it, I thought was really, really interesting. And it was really nice to see that. It was handled with care, but it wasn't obnoxious. That was the best part about it. It was there. It wasn't obnoxious, but you got so much more rich, like good stuff out of it from it being there. But overall, I cannot wait to see what they do with Spider-Man 2. This sounds like it's going to be hype. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be dope. And I cannot wait to play it. I'm definitely going to be doing a JJ's first 30 or a first look video. Maybe if it doesn't last 30 minutes, it'll probably be like an hour of me just straight up playing Spider-Man 2. I cannot wait. It's going to be so fun. But either way, let me know in the comment section if you're going to be picking up Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5 when it comes out on day one in about a week and a half. We can change. October 20th. Cannot wait. I'm hyped. Keep in mind, though, okay, some of you that aren't going to be picking this up, you better be picking up Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I don't want to hear nothing about any other games that you're picking up that day, because those are the two big games that people are going to be playing. So if you're not playing one of those games, you're missing out big time. So either way, let's end off on one more serious subject, which I think is relevant, especially if you've been seeing some of the new videos I put up on the channel recently with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the open beta or the early access beta, at least it was for me, that happened recently, right? So here's the thing. Call of Duty is going through some problems right now. I wrote up a preview of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the beta, the multiplayer beta, I should say. I put that up on CFTV. You can go check that out on the Cloudfish website. I thought that the beta, when in of itself, when it's working, is great. Okay, the multiplayer is exactly what you think it is. If you don't like Call of Duty multiplayer, you're not going to like anything about this, because that's what this is essentially. 3 maps. I want to say about 4 or 5 game types, including Ground War with another larger map. That's for the early access and the open beta that everybody gets to play through. I think you get one more with the open beta that everybody gets to try out at some point, but there's enough there for a beta to be fun that you could be spending a lot of time with. I think I hit past level 20, maybe, I think. I know I saw some people in there that were playing so much that they were like over 25, I think. They were getting up there. They were doing a lot of like stuff and unlocking many different weapons and attachments, which is cool. But here's the problem, right? Right now, in the beta, unfortunately, because it's been shown on Twitter and other social media, hackers are already ruining this game. It's like, come on, Activision, like for real, what's going on over there? You talked to us about this whole cheat software, these anti-cheat software that you could use to combat, cheaters and other crazy people that are online trying to pirate the game or do this other stuff or whatever, right? And unfortunately, in your beta, with the game not being out, and by the way, the beta on consoles, on PlayStation 5, that's why I played it, and I saw a video clip of somebody that was cheating and ruining the game on PlayStation 5, on consoles. You have cheaters running around doing stuff. Like, what is it that like you need to do in order to prevent cheaters from ruining your game? Because I'll tell you right now, even though I could look past it to a point, as long as those cheaters don't come into my game and start ruining my matches, I completely, like, I could go in there and at least go and play Modern Warfare 3, the beta. But as soon as I see a cheater on there, I'm out. But there's a lot of people that will see this on social media and be like, you know what? The hell with Call of Duty. Like, I just won't play this because the game is marred by cheaters. You'll have your diehards that are going to play it regardless and probably play with the cheaters at some point. But you're going to have a number of people that are going to be like, the hell with this. Like, I don't want to get into multiplayer and have to deal with this. Like, I don't want to have to go in there thinking I'm doing bad, like I'm complete garbage, but it's this guy that's got cheats enabled somehow on console, okay? It'd be one thing if it was PC, because that happens on PC and that's a lot more difficult to manage with stuff. But this is on Sony hardware, probably also on the Xbox Series X and Series S. How these people figure that out, I have no idea, but I do know it's annoying for many people, because I saw this one clip, right, that got passed around. I think I saw it on Dot Esports and a few other spots. I think like Dexerto and whatever. And this guy ended up getting killed when he was like, I think he was trying to jump off a building or he was trying to get away or something. And this guy literally had this cheat where it snaps over to players, but he could also shoot them through walls and could see them through walls. And his like ridicule was snapping all over the place, just going straight to this person's head and just getting these kills. And it's like, come on, man. Like, what are you supposed to do to something like that on consoles if you have no means to combat that? It's really Activision's job to make sure that they got a lid on all this stuff, that they could address it, they could ban people like super quickly and find ways to prevent people from cheating again. Because clearly this has been a big problem for a very long time. It's like, Activision, what is it that you're not doing that you find difficult that is causing this to still be a major problem all these years later? This is a remake of another Call of Duty game, and you're still having problems with this. This is like the 3rd remake. So, like, what's going on over there? Like, what can you do to stop people from cheating on consoles? I understand PC is difficult, but what is it that you need to do to stop these people from showing up on consoles and ruining the game for everybody else? Is it a crossplay thing? Is it an infrastructure thing? Is it something with your servers? Like, what is it? What is it? Because I feel like us as consumers or Call of Duty fans, we really need an explanation. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if this keeps up and if this is like a big major problem that continues onward and Activision does nothing about it, I'm not playing Call of Duty no more. Like, straight up. Like, and I know that many people have said that many times in the past and they come back somehow, but this I think is like legit, like a valid reason to never play Call of Duty again, especially multiplayer. I mean, if you like the single player of Call of Duty, I mean, have at it. Like, you could do whatever. There's no problem with that because you don't have to worry about cheaters. But if you like coming home from work one day and just like playing Call of Duty, like this type of thing could ruin your experience. And like you think you're tied up about work, imagine having to deal with all this right after having a bad day at work. It'll be really, really difficult for you. And I don't think anybody has the patience or the time for that. So the next best thing is to go find something else to play. So instead of playing Call of Duty, maybe go back to Spider-Man 2. Because I think Call of Duty comes out November 10th and Spider-Man 2 comes out October 20th. So for some people, they might be done with the game by then. But, you know, because it's like 30 hours or so for the single player. But hey, you could always go for the platinum. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could always find something else. Or better yet, if you played Spider-Man 2 by then, go and get Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Get all the Call of Duty players going over to Super Mario instead. Can you imagine? That'd be hilarious. The point is, though, is that Activision needs to fix their game. Activision needs to figure out something in order to prevent people from cheating and ruining the experience of everybody else that gets online, because that is not fun to deal with. That kills the fun factor of your game, and it could probably do a lot of damage to your brand if not fully addressed at some point. So anyway, those are my thoughts on everything that I had to talk about on this episode of the podcast. I know it was a lot, especially with the heavy-handed stuff with Bungie, but let me know all of your thoughts about everything that we discussed in the comment section down below. Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? Do you have any other perspective or opinions to bring up for everybody? Put all that down below in the comment section. And of course, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out all the brand new content that's out there right now that I've been putting up in relation to the Modern Warfare 3 beta, as well as also a couple other games, including Mortal Kombat 1 matches that I put up. There's a lot of great stuff there. Leave a like on this episode of the podcast if you can. It helps out the channel, gets it out there to more people. And also, don't forget, suggest topics that you guys want me to discuss on future episodes of the podcast. Maybe if there's not a lot happening here and there, maybe I could bring it up on a future podcast and address your guys' concerns and thoughts directly. It would be fun to keep the conversation going overall. But with that being said, I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.